All right. Now, we've talked about this before as of recent, and I'm coming back to this because I saw a thread yesterday, and this is on me. I should have been quicker to the punch. But I saw this thread yesterday before I went live, and since then, I do have a screenshot of one of the person's posts had thousands of likes and so forth. People agreeing with the person, and what it was basically a trash J. Scott Campbell and his artwork thread. So, for those that don't know who J. Scott Campbell is, he's a comic book artist. He's done some work for Marvel, and apparently there is a sector of, I don't know if we can really call, do we call these guys comic book fans? Can we actually call them that? I don't really know if we can call them that. It's hard to tell these days because when I see some of the things that these people gripe about, or these types of people, it almost feels as if they're just going out of their way to get mad, which is, what these sort of raging SJWs sort of do anyway. But it seems like they are just at that point where they're trying to, or attempting to, hijack other people's fandoms to make it about their own personal social preferences and so forth, and finding something to get mad at. So that's what I think this more so is. I don't know if I can't really call these guys comic book fans. There's no proof of that, and a lot of these guys, I don't know, they're weirdos. Nonetheless, here we are again with another "Where Are Her Organs?" And for those that don't know, the "Where Are Her Organs" thing seems to come from people that don't like the way women are being drawn in these comic books. They call it misogynistic because they're being drawn thin, yet with, let's say, assets, and therefore it's, I don't know, unrealistic to them. They've apparently never seen a woman that is built like this. This is a comic book, by the way, and apparently that is misogynistic. I guess shooting laser beams out of your eyes is that's when it comes to realism, that's fine. But when it comes to these proportions, which let's go here, right? So I want to show you guys this picture first, mainly because the person blocked or locked up their Twitter. I guess they did end up getting some sort of backlash, but the person ended up blocking their Twitter. So what the thread was, and I only have unfortunately one picture of it, but what the thread was taking some of his art, and they were taking some of the characters that have already been in them, like live action depictions and such, and they're taking the way that they're drawn in the comic books and trying to like form them, which is, again, doesn't make any sense to do that anyway, but that she's purposely trying to like make them deformed to the way that sort of mimics the way that they look on the artwork, which again doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Because for one, these people are clearly going to be built differently because they're different people. Not even all artwork has the characters built the exact same way, so to try to form them like that is a little dishonest. But again, it's I guess it's supposed to be an exaggeration because they want that to be the case. Like, hey, look how unrealistic this person's body is. So what I'm going to do is take a actual person and their body and just kind of fuse it, instead of me finding another person that maybe cosplays or something like that that has a similar body type as that character. Why don't I take Brie Larson and then like fuse her to be the character that she's depicted on like this artwork on a cover or something? It's like, what the Imagine this, man. So, and to go back here, I was picking up some of it. Of course, there's a communist here that it just seems to always be these communists that are mad at stuff like this. But these guys are like, hey, thin waist, it's not realistic and so forth. And then, like, I know this guy's like, actually, yes, there are people that are built like that. Check this chick out, right? And then, yeah, I love going outside and seeing a woman half naked at the supermarket because I guess it's a complete goalpost shift, right? Because the person was like, have you ever seen women? And then it's like, yeah, I have seen women basically that are built like that too. And then he's like, oh, they're not built like that at the supermarket. Like, these aren't people at the supermarket, bro. Like, these aren't people at the supermarket. These are superheroes being drawn in comic books. And then J. Scott Campbell's like, are you serious suggesting that I should start drawing depictions of superhero women to resemble the average person at the supermarket? This is where we're at. I can imagine being an artist in that because the thing is, and apparently J. Scott Campbell isn't like tippy-tap-toeing around this, which I appreciate from a creator of comic books, because unfortunately, definitely when it comes to writers and stuff, I know they tippy-tap-toe around everything. They're tippy-toeing around everything, trying not to offend people, or they have that particular demographic. Certainly nowadays, when it comes to current writers, even old writers that have gone full-blown, I don't know, derangement considering the event in 2016. And they've lost their minds, right? They completely lost their minds, even some of the older cats. And they have that demographic of most of that political demographic that they have no problem catering to. So in doing so, they have to kind of tiptoe around certain things, and they have to make sure that they don't offend certain people. And they go out of their way to make sure that they're doing that, and they're sure that they're doing that. J. Scott Campbell doesn't seem like he's like doing that. He's like, dude, I'm going to draw these people how I draw. There's enough people that have no issue with this for me to not have to sort of change this, and I'm just going to keep doing what it is that I'm doing. You can go be mad. I'm like, all right, cool. Go be mad. I like that. Because all too often I know these people are, when you got a bunch of comic book creators and artists that don't want to align themselves with me publicly, even though they agree with me, that's sort of what we're dealing with, right? Because unfortunately, and I get it, I absolutely get it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not taking shots at those people. I absolutely get it, because those people have some sort of brand that they have to protect to ensure their own bottom line from an economic standpoint. And if it means costing them jobs, it's not necessarily worth aligning yourself with little old me, right? I get it. But I'm just using that as an example about people having to sort of tippy-tap-toe around certain things. And J. Scott Campbell, not necessarily him aligning with me. To my knowledge, he doesn't know who I am. But I do find some sort of appreciation in that he's gonna continue to be like, you know what, this is what it is. This is what I'm gonna draw him as, and if you are going to get offended by it, that's going to be on you. And that's, to me, how I wish a lot of other creators, I wish that was their approach, instead of catering to these. To me, it feels like a more of a loud minority than it is any sort of majority or significant portion of the base. To me, it just seems like it's just a bunch of weirdos, man, that are trying to hijack certain cultures. And then trying to hijack certain cultures, they're getting mad. They're going out of their way to get mad at people and the artwork and the whole work, and just so they can go be offended at stuff. That's what it ultimately boils down to. Like, let's be honest about the situation. It ultimately boils down to these people wanting to be offended, going out of their way to be offended, because that's the cool thing to do. The cool thing to do is to get offended. And it's weird. Don't get me wrong. It is completely weird. I don't understand it. But when being offended has become in the public sphere a currency, you're going to get more and more people trying to go out of their way to be offended. This is what this boils down to. Where are her organs? Like, they're inside her body, bro. Like, relax. And maybe some of these guys are projecting. Maybe they're built bad themselves, and they don't like the fact to see the other women that are built bad, or it's not built bad, or not built bad like that, but they're in shape. Let's say that. And they have things going for them, and maybe that's their way of projecting. Like, they feel like, oh, well, this is unrealistic depiction, and, you know, people are going to look at the comic book characters and then expect that out of a woman. I don't know. Granted, don't get me wrong. It's funny, I was going through yesterday through my stream, right? We're going through the top comic books and of the year, and there you go. Conan right there, cut up as any man can be. He got muscles where muscles you can't even get muscles. Muscles on top of muscles on top of muscles. I ain't never heard no grown man be like, man, these dudes are unrealistically buff. Where are his organs? Which they probably wouldn't say that because they're bigger, so I guess you could still fit the organs inside of his body, but I don't know what the literal equivalent would be. It would be griping. Either way. And I don't know any grown men that gripe about pretty much every dude in a comic book, even like the bystanders is cut up to the freaking gills. I don't know any man that gripes about that. That's all I'm saying. Now we got to the point to where they say men should not draw women. Okay, you got a industry that's dominated by men, not from the writers I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about from the consumer standpoint. It is not a secret. Most people that consume this material are men, and then you want to try to get them up out of there in terms of the production because you don't like the way that they're being drawn. And even though there's women that draw them the same way, oh, these people are lunatics.